All right, everybody. It's the man they call Dave with the Working Fans Podcast. And today we have a repeat guest. Zoe Zager is back. Last time she was here, we recorded January 5th, 2021. Um, you were already about 3 years into your career.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, the pandemic happened. So you were we were talking about this. You were getting used to like wrestling in front of fans, and that gets taken away from you.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you
It was
have to get,
crazy.
yeah, you have to get used to working in front of fans again. Just a little refresher before we get into that, though, for people who maybe didn't hear the first interview. You broke in training with Lance Storm,
Yeah.
and then you had help. See if I remember this correctly. Richard Blaze.
Michael Blaze. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yep. And heavy metal, correct?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Now, I didn't get to ask you this last time. Heavy metal is a name I've actually heard a lot about on the independent circuit and stuff too. Tell us about him.
Um, I'll be honest, like as much as I trained with him, I didn't know a whole lot
Okay.
about what he's done. I know that years ago he's worked in Mexico before. Right now he's branching out into the BC scene a little bit more, but primarily Alberta based. And then I think goes out to Winnipeg on occasion and that sort of stuff. And he's been around for 18 or so years. Um, but other than training, I hadn't worked a whole lot around him prior to that.
And some of the people that got you interested in wrestling, I remember was Bailey, right? That was one of your
Yes.
influences coming in. Yep. I think you were telling me, if I remember correctly, you were a little disenfranchised the first time you watched wrestling. I think they were doing the Piggy James.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you came back, and it was like Bailey versus Asuka, and the in ring had improved so much. I shouldn't say improve, the focus on the in ring,
Yeah.
right? So,
Definitely. Yeah. I'm upset that she hasn't wrestled in a while. I'll be honest, but yeah, she got me like hooked from that match. Was like when the obsession started. Um, she's just so cool and so awesome and so like genuine, and it's awesome to see even like with her heel work and with her baby face work. I'm very interested to see like how she plays it up once she's back, hopefully soon.
um, yeah, I mean, we can just take a little quick, just as fans, something about Bailey. I mean, since we're going to talk about you coming back from the pandemic,
Mhm.
Bailey was like the MVP. I felt like in terms
Yeah.
that era, like her and Sasha together, like the stuff they were doing, in particular Bailey, like when everybody else was struggling in that empty arena setting, she was the one that started like insulting Michael Cole and doing
Hmm.
different things. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool to see. I was Because it was like the pandemic, I was able to put a lot of focus on watching that product more than I have since or before. And being able to like with Michael and with a couple of my friends to watch the stuff and to like hear what Michael was saying about it because he was trained by TJ and still in contact, and so hearing the little stories about it because a lot of those were pre-taped. Um, and so hearing like their complications and seeing how they fixed it kind of on screen was very, very cool to see.
Now, I'm curious. Have you had some other people that you got to work with a little more in training since, or have you basically been sticking kind of with the same people as of right now, or has anyone, any other options, opened up?
Um, Training wise, no, I'm still training with the same people. Michael, Taryn from accounting, Stephen Crow primarily are like the core group of us. Is that as well as Bayrat Goroni? He comes in every so often when he can. And so that core group is still the same, but now I've been like working out in BC more and being able to see and work with a couple of different faces that I never was able to before and didn't know a whole lot about before. Like I had a match with Bambi Hall recently, and she's just amazing. And I want to be able to have a singles match. It was a triple threat. I want to be able to have a singles match with her because it was that triple threat went off like better than it could have for like circumstances. And so I'm anxious to be able to have another one with her.
One other guy you had mentioned too, I might get this name wrong. Thaddius Archer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. He had helped you with some pre-tapes and stuff, right? Like he would have you like get a chance to like work on your mic skills, stuff like that. You still getting to do that too as well?
At shows every so often. He does his Archer reports for Love Pro Wrestling now, and I've worked for every show for them since they started last October. And it's been really awesome to be able to work with him again more consistently, because it had been 2 years since I had that opportunity to really work on promos and have somebody there like with me, like in person, helping me out. And so that's been awesome.
So was the pandemic, in a sense, getting to take almost that step back and getting the opportunity to watch film and stuff with your trainers and people working with you and getting to work on these pre-tapes from an in-ring standpoint and your character and all that, as a professional, as a performer, would you say that that had some benefits?
Oh, definitely. It definitely had benefits. I think because I realized this like a little bit ago, up until the pandemic, for about a year before the pandemic started, so June 2019, from the beginning of June 2019, maybe even earlier, I had maybe 3 weekends off of shows. And training was only open like a couple of days a week. And so I wasn't able to really focus on the things that like the nitpicky things I didn't have time to realize and to have time to fix before going to the next show. And then kind of like, oh, it's a show, you can kind of let things slide a little bit. Whereas in training, you have training during the pandemic, there were no shows, and I was able to find those like little nitpicky things that needed to be fixed and be able to hammer them down and fix them, so that way once shows were back and are back, I don't let them slide anymore. It's not something that is an issue anymore.
Right. So you were able to sharpen your skills, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, really tighten up everything. Yeah, that's great, right? I mean, that's taking a negative and turning it into a positive.
For sure. It was hard during the pandemic. This is only like hindsight that I'm able to. The pandemic was very, very hard. But now looking back, it's like, oh, it was like hard for a reason. I was like actively learning all that time and getting better literally every day. So as crappy as it was in general, I now can look back at it fondly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's no substitute, I'm sure, for experience of being out there. But at the same time, if you're out there and you're not getting a chance to really sharpen stuff that you probably need to, you know, I just talked to an author, Brian Solomon, who wrote a book about the Sheik, and he wrote it during the pandemic. And he said there was no way this book would have been as good if I didn't write it during the pandemic. He said I spent like hours a day on that. I wouldn't have done that otherwise.
Right. Yeah, I was able to focus like so much in-ring work, so much on in-ring work. I was like at the start of the pandemic, I was in there literally 7 days a week, which is insane. I can't imagine doing that now, just with life and stuff. Like that's an insane amount of time that I was able to like focus on the ring. But I was so fortunate that we were able to do that despite all the restrictions and everything.
But mentally at that time too, it's a challenge because
yes,
probably part of it, even though you're telling me, like I remember we were talking like, yeah, we're going to get back, we're going to do this. part of you probably must be like, are we going to do this? What's going to happen? Or you're right.
Yeah, like, so January, that was, so we had that conversation in
January
January of like
2021.
things
Yeah.
were still like hard locked down. There was no sight in like when things were gonna start opening up again. Um, and then I didn't have my first show in front of fans until July at that point. So it was like 6 months still of like just grinding and like, is it gonna open? There's rumors that it's gonna open. Is it gonna actually open? And then it was open for the summer, and then restrictions came down, and then vaccines happened, and like that was a whole thing of like, okay, restrictions are coming down now. Are we still able to run shows? Is it worth it to run at a third capacity now? And then once the vaccines hit, the workers have to be vaccinated to be in the building. Like fans have to be vaccinated to be in the building. The wrestlers have to be vaccinated to be in the building. And like there were wrestlers who didn't want to get vaccinated and were hard against it. So and so shows like, I mean, personally I say cut your losses at that point. But like there were people who were at the top who now aren't on shows because they're not vaccinated.
Right.
And so it was a weird time during the summer of 2021 trying to just figure out how things were because everything was like constantly changing and evolving still. Luckily now it's settled a little bit, but that was like, it was just a weird time to be wrestling consistently.
Sure. Now, all right. So take me to it then. Now, your first show back in front of fans. I'm sure there's a whole array of emotions here, right? I mean, happiness, nervousness.
Yeah, it was weird because it was also for a promotion that I hadn't worked for in Calgary. It was for Real Canadian Wrestling. And going to the show, I thought it was a triple threat. It was supposed to be myself, Taryn from Accounting, um, versus Alex Zwicker. And then I got there and it was a fatal four way. And then by the time the show actually started, it was a fatal five way. And so it was like a whole, like, it was hectic and there were two extra people and we're trying to plan it. And this room that we're planning it in is haunted and the ceiling's leaking. And it was like just the wildest thing. And like, it was people, and I'd worked with Zwicker before. And I've worked with Taryn before, and I'd worked with Ava Lawless, but never in a match. Um, and I hadn't worked with Sexy Samantha, who was also in there. And so it was just like a bunch of people that I only kind of knew, and I wasn't sure how I was going to fit in now into this like new promotion, new fans, post pandemic. Like, I was in an unknown, and the match went all right. It could have gone better, but it definitely could have gone way, way worse.
I mean, I would imagine though that audience must have been starved for wrestling. I would think.
Yeah, I think RCW had ran a couple of weeks
Okay.
prior to that, so luckily it wasn't like their first show after literally nothing. Because I feel like I would have put more pressure on myself if that was the case. Um, so yeah, but it was definitely a weird experience, especially because that room is very haunted, very, very haunted.
I'd be interested to see this room now. Expose. What's
I don't
going on?
know if I have pictures of it. I'll have to ask.
Oh
But,
man.
like the ceilings like coming down. It's in like an old Legion, and it's wild.
So okay. So now, what would you say was the time? How long before maybe? Obviously, you're still new to the game. You're still always working on things. But when do you maybe you start to feel more comfortable being back a little bit, or is that something you even still feel, or is it always a question of like
Mm, I think pretty quickly I got accustomed to being in front of fans. Probably within like a month, I was back used to it. Um, but with knowing different things that I knew coming out of the pandemic, it took a month to get used to, but even during that month and since then, I was much more confident in my wrestling ability and like just myself coming out of the pandemic than I was going into it. Um, I had like a different mindset coming out of the pandemic of like um really trying to not just push myself to have the best match ever, make sure that my opponent also has their best match ever, and try and really take absolutely everything from every match and make it better. Even if it went really, really well in one match, make it better the next match if you do something similar. If you do something not great, perfect it for the next two matches. And really just try and like push the boundaries of like what I thought I was able to do, and really just keep on improving and don't get stagnant. Watch every single match back, find something, because there's always something that you can improve on. Even if you have like the perfect match, there's always something. And so finding the something or some things, picking up on it, changing it if it's bad, improving on it if it's still good, and just keep on going with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a great mindset. Did you get help from that? Like, that kind of mentality from someone?
Yeah, Michael plays.
Okay,
he
Michael's really responsible for a lot
he's
of this.
like just the best like trainer person just ever.
Like a guru.
Yeah,
Like
he's just like the coolest person, and like has helped me literally since before like I finished Lances, and like, oh, it's been crazy the
oh,
amount of knowledge that I've gotten from just like one person.
now you get back in the swing of things. Now, my producer, he put a little promotional picture up for this. You had a championship belt, I noticed.
I
Uh,
do.
now, and is that your first championship? I mean, did your first championship come after the pandemic? I guess is what I'm
No, my first championship came before the pandemic. It was the brand new PWA Women's Championship. Um, they technically had one like years prior to me winning one, but they never had a belt for it. So I am the only actual first ever women's champion.
I think this was a
Um,
white strap. I'd have to look at it, but I think it was a white strap.
yeah,
Yep.
that's the one.
Okay, okay.
And then like post pandemic, I won and lost the RCW women's title. Um, Won it from TFA, lost it to Stephen Crow, and I never got my rematch for that because I got injured. But and then I am now the PWA Women's Champion, and I won it from Gigi Ray.
Now I saw recently too on your social media. You got the chance to wrestle Willow Nightingale recently
I
too.
did. I
Yeah.
did. That was
Now,
awesome.
so you wrestled somebody who's on AEW television, done Ring of Honor pay-per-views, MLW. How exciting is that to be, kind of wrestling someone who's been on that national stage right now too?
It was nerve wracking for sure. Because originally I wasn't supposed to wrestle Willow. Um, it was supposed I was supposed to wrestle Giselle Shaw, and like
Oh yeah.
her having been in like England and now in Impact, because she started in Alberta and she trained with Lance, for some reason in my head I wasn't as like intimidated by it, just because like she seemed familiar, because I literally heard about her like my first week of training, and so like, and I have worked with people who have worked around her. I've I don't know if I've had like probably the most of my matches total with Kat Von Hees, and Kat speaks very, very highly of Giselle. And so like with her, she seemed just familiar.
Yeah.
Um, but then that fell through because she had like Impact Media stuff scheduled for the day of the show, and so she had to pull out. And Spencer is just the best human, and was able to get Willow, and that just blew my mind. Because like she had a couple of, or maybe one AEW like dark match, and the week before she did Rampage, which was just insane. But to have somebody who like has worked those places and has worked a lot of people, scary for sure. I didn't know what to expect. I hoped that I would be able to hang, and I think I did. And the match was so much fun. She's so easy to work with. And yeah, it was just a whirlwind of a night.
She comes off like her character is obviously like this really happy, positive person. It doesn't seem like it's too far off. Like she seems like
No, she's literally like what you see on TV is like not even that far turned up from like what she actually is. She's so bubbly and so happy, and I want to have another match with her very, very, very soon. It would be the best thing.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to give you some confidence too. Like I said, just to be competing with people you know that are already able to be on that national stage. So I mean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. It was definitely a good confidence moment. Being able to be in the ring and being able to like hit all the things that we wanted, and be able to get the reactions that we wanted. It was, I've had that before with like people from around here, um, which like is expected because I work with these people all the time around here, and so we know what works with each other and whatever. But walking into somebody just brand new and somebody at that level too, um, just crazy feelings.
Now, have you got to work out of Canada yet? I know you're still obviously you're still early in your career. I'm just curious if that's an opportunity, and if it's not, are you looking to get bookings?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to work outside of Canada yet. This year I was able to finally branch into BC, which has been great. And a lot of the BC guys go down to the States. They work for like Defy and Prestige and stuff. So hopefully, with that and having a little bit more of the eyes out west, um, and on the coast, hopefully that'll help. I've reached out to a couple of promotions just recently, so I haven't heard back from them. So I would love to be able to go down to the States to wrestle for like a Defy or a Prestige, or really just any promotion down in the States. It would be so cool to be able to do that and like have a bigger audience.
I mean, you have that match with Will now too, so I would think
This
that
is this is very true.
yeah. So that could be something you're sending out there that might get a little more notice too. I would think.
Yes.
So I guess the next question is basically, what are some of your goals for this year?
For this year, I definitely making it down to the States for at least one show. Just kind of get my feet wet down in the scene there would be definitely very high up on my list. I just want to wrestle like everywhere and everyone, um, and just like learn a lot, um, and just yeah, mostly just wrestle everywhere, wrestle everyone. No specific goals. There's a couple of people that I would love to have matches with, but like opportunities are going to be weird for those just being in Canada. Um, I would love to have a match with Billy Starks. She's so talented. Um, yeah, yeah. Down
So
in the States, Billy Starks.
you're just living for the moment right now, and maybe we'll make it down to the U.S. Where actually, before I get promotional stuff too, is there anywhere maybe people can find some of your matches?
Um, YouTube has a lot of my matches. The Love Pro Wrestling YouTube has, I think, all but one of my matches up. I believe it's YouTube slash Love Pro Wrestling, maybe CA. As well, just Zoe Sager Wrestling. Usually my matches pop up.
Yep.
But Spencer puts up the live shows on their account. And usually I retweet those links. So follow my Twitter, which is Sager Zoe, I think.
It is. We haven't actually. It's Sager Zoe, and you can correct it. Zoe
And
underscore Sager Instagram.
yes, that is correct.
Yep. And we got Zoe Sager just on Facebook. So yeah, follow you any chance to get. Anything else you want to promote before you go?
July 29th, I believe, is the LPW 6 Welcome to Paradise. I am wrestling Taryn from accounting for the LPW Challenge Championship. And she's going to lose. So you guys should tune in on Twitch.
Check her out. Support Zoe. She's one of the good ones out there. She's nice enough to do these interviews, and we've been following her along, and she's back at it. She's killing it.
Damn straight.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thanks.